Hey guys, thanks for joining us for the next episode of the Design Build podcast. I'm super excited you could be here. Once again, I'm one of your hosts, Eli Tomlinson, here with my co-host,
Brittany Grogan.
And we're excited to talk to you about some different pricing models and different pricing structures that different contractors use, designers use, just to kind of help you understand better what to look for or what to look at when you're getting numbers from a contractor, what that actually looks like, or what you should expect to see.
And how to build your budget.
And how to build your budget accordingly.
Yeah.
Yep. So look forward to talking to you guys about that. And yeah, Brittany, you got a hot take for us?
Yes. So this is based on a conversation this week. Hot take on...
Bring your mic a little closer.
Hot take on soaking tubs.
Soaking tubs?
Yeah. Or jacuzzi tubs if you are of a certain age.
I would rather just sit in a hot tub.
Okay.
I think...
So like primary suite, must-have essentials.
I think a soaking tub... Okay, so let's define real quick. Soaking tub is going to be different than a jacuzzi tub.
Okay, but let's just say a big bathtub in the primary suite.
I'm a fan of that.
Okay.
I am a fan of that. I'm a big guy. I don't know if you can see this on camera, but I'm a bigger guy. And so I actually like taking baths from time to time.
Okay.
I usually shower first because I hate the thought of like sitting in my own filth. So I shower first and then I like to take a bath sometimes, but I can't do that in a normal sized tub. One, because they're usually too short in general.
Nobody has a fun time in a 5-foot tub.
Yeah. And so
those are for washing babies and dogs.
Exactly. I don't even know that I do. I don't even like doing a dog in that.
I have never, but I mean,
it sucks.
People do things.
It sucks.
People let dogs sleep in their bed. I don't.
That's disgusting.
That's
another hot take.
I wasn't born with that part of my heart, but that's normal.
I wasn't born with the part of my heart that would consider a dog a family member or a child. Let me specify child.
That would consider a dog a child?
I don't consider a dog your child. I consider it your pet.
I'm going to plead the fifth, and I'm just going to warn you, that type of talk.
I know, could get me canceled.
Yeah,
soaking tubs. Let's go.
That's not even what we were talking about.
So I like the idea of a soaking tub. I don't really like the idea of like a jetted jacuzzi tub. One, because it's just another mechanical thing to go wrong. And 90% of the time, like every jacuzzi tub I've taken out of a house during a remodel, it's always like one, there's bugs or there's something living inside of it. And two, usually the homeowner hasn't used it for like 4 or 5 years because it's broken or something stopped working and they don't know how to fix it or they don't know who to call or whatever it is. And so I just find like the mechanical piece of that and just trying to take care of it. One, people don't take care of it because it's in their house and they figure it's just a tub. But you still have to, run the jets consistently and clean it like normal. Just like you would a hot tub. Like you still need to run things through your jets to clean them. But most people don't do that, so I just generally don't like jacuzzi tubs in homes. I think a hot tub outside, a jacuzzi tub outside, or a jacuzzi outside, great. I love it. There's a whole service industry that takes care of hot tubs, and it's really easy to get someone out there to fix it. But there's just like less... like most of the time, it's just less people know how to take care of a jacuzzi tub. And usually they just end up broken and I tear them out and I put in a shower. That's usually what happens. So what about you?
I am like a pauper. I have never, as an adult, lived in a house with a master suite that has like a big tub.
Okay.
So this is not part of my daily life. Like taking a bath is not something that is built in. I don't know that I'm like missing a lot. Like maybe my life would be dramatically different if I could only take a bath when I wanted to. But it is like a treat whenever I book like a room or anything like this. Like I want a big old tub and it's a treat. So like personally, it's not even on my radar of things that I want. Like I would rather have a huge shower, with the bench, with the full thing than the like 4-piece bathroom with the tub too. For clients, I feel like it's completely a personal preference. I don't believe that it relates to or ties into resale value the way that like a realtor will tell you it does.
Yeah.
Because in the market that I work in, it seems like it's 50-50.
Okay.
Like people either want a tub because it's part of their daily routine, or they not even at all. It sits there and collects dust, and they hate cleaning it, and they don't use it.
I could almost see like the soaking tub making a difference in the sale of a home, but that's just I'm not a realtor. I don't know, right? So, but I was in my mind, I'm thinking more so on the just the taking care of things. Like I would much rather buy a house with a soaking tub than a house with a jacuzzi tub.
And I can't even remember the last time I put. I mean, there's like the air therapy tubs, which again is a mechanical component. But those are really, really rare. And they're mostly people that are wanting like the hydrotherapy. Like they actually know what they want and why they want that, as opposed to, as opposed to like the jetted tub fun spa day thing.
Yeah, it's just a luxury that they think they want.
So soaking tubs, that's, it's either a soaking tub and a big shower, or save the space and just do like the whole car wash shower kind of thing.
I agree with you.
So
I'm not going, I'm not going to reduce my shower's footprint to put in a soaking tub.
See, that's where I'm like, is this a hot take? Because there are people, and I think realtors on that end especially will tell you like, you got to do it. Get a smaller shower and put the soaking tub in.
No.
And I'm like, no way. Do the shower, do it right. And if you have room for a tub, absolutely. Let's include that, because it's a relatively small bump as far as the components that you're purchasing. Yeah. You know, it's a couple $1,000s for a really nice tub. And again, depending on the way you want your tub filler set up. So we're looking at like less than $5,000 on a master suite remodel. That's a fraction of the budget. Yeah. So if there's footprint and space and money, do it, but get the shower right.
Yeah, I would much rather have a shower. I mean, I'd much rather have a shower with like 17 heads, you know? I'd rather have my master shower have its own hot water heater, just so that I could just get jetted from everywhere. Like that, I would much rather do that than reduce that shower space for a soaking tub.
I'm going to add a second hot take.
Okay,
because I'm having fun. Rain heads.
I do like them. I like the idea of them. I have not lived in a house that has one, so I can't like.
Have you used them like at a hotel?
But I have used them at a hotel. I like the rain heads. I guess I want the option. I don't want it to just be a rain head.
No, like the center mount.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want it to just be a rain head. I want to be able to control a head on the wall as well.
Yeah.
Because the rain head, I think it feels nice. It's kind of cool. I think it looks cool too.
I hate it so much.
But I would rather be able to control heads on the walls before having like just an isolated rain head. I did a shower and they installed a rain head up above, and I went back a couple months later, it might have been a year later, to finish up some other work on a different project. And I was like, how do you like your rain shower head? She's like, I use it like once. She's like, it's really cool, but it's like the practicality of it is like, I use the shower head. I was like, oh, okay.
They look awesome. I love the way they look. I feel like I'm drowning. I mean, I feel like it's honestly like the first time that we did like a waterfall hike. I remember this vividly. And I had like these romance movie ideas of like standing under the waterfall, you know, and like Little Mermaid or whatever. That's not what that feels like. I mean, it feels like bullets on your head and you feel like you're drowning. And that's how I feel in the rain shower. Yeah. Like this is no part. It's like, no part of this is fun. Yeah. I don't appreciate any of this. And then, I mean, I have curly hair. That's a game changer. It just like you feel like a drowned rat, and then you get to look like one too. Like one. Yeah, it's a lose-lose for me. People will be like, "I want the rain head shower," and I'm like, "Have you lived with one?" And they're like, "No, but that's like the luxury thing, right?"
I think that's just it too. Is it's been painted as a luxury item, and it's like, no, I can get a rain shower head for like $200 off Amazon, and I can attach it to my current spout, and it'll stick out, 2 feet in my shower. And it's like, I'm just saying, like, they've kind of been painted as like this super luxury thing when you see, you know, big showers, you know.
There's so many things that fit into that category.
I know.
So I'm so excited to talk about all of them.
Yeah.
But for right now,
now we could talk about other things, but
the money.
Yeah, the money part. So where do you think you want to go first?
Well, I think that in general, everybody is really pragmatic for the most part. Like, everybody needs to make money.
Mm-hmm.
That's not hard math.
Yeah.
It's a job. It's work. You deserve to be paid for work.
Mm-hmm.
But the ways that both designers and contractors make money,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's partial visibility into
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just want to pull the blinders off.
What do you mean by partial visibility?
Well, like, I think that it's people expect there to be a margin on things, but maybe
Mm-hmm.
not a margin on everything.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and people have a hard time with that. Like, people have a hard time with me charging hourly and taking a margin on product. It feels like double dipping. And I'm like, do you feel that way about your contractor?
Yeah.
Do you feel like they're double dipping? Like,
Yeah.
explain this to me.
Well, do you feel that way when you purchase something off Amazon? Like, it's the same thing. You're just smaller amounts.
Well, a lot of times client will be like, well, let me supply the product and you can put it in. So you're getting paid for your labor and your time. You're getting paid, you know, for your side of things, and I'll supply the product. And I was thinking about this morning. Like, I had this project that the guys, we were building an entry bench.
Okay.
And this thing was going to be cool. So we did the whole thing out of Decton, so like a porcelain slab, with like a waterfall leg, and the whole thing had to be built into the wall with steel brackets and supports, and then framed, and then the top went on. So the project manager, I went to the job site, and like, dude, we template tomorrow. Like, this is not built. And he was just like, yeah, I sent the new guy down to buy lumber. And he came back and every single board was bowed. Like, we couldn't use any of it. So we're making another run. And I'm like, that is why you let other people buy your stuff. And that's why they charge to buy your stuff. Like, if I'm buying tile for a job, I'm taking a margin on that. But I'm also the one that's like, the tile showed up to the job site and 3 boxes are broken. And that's my responsibility to figure that out.
Yeah.
If the homeowner is like showing up with their boxes of tile and we open it up and 3 boxes are broken, I'm like, go buy more.
Yeah.
And we got to make this work.
Yeah. And I think the homeowners, and I go back and forth on this. I see as a homeowner, like, where I would go, like, yeah, if I can buy these materials, then I'm not paying markup on having to do it. But I think as the homeowner, you also have to figure out what your time is worth, because the time that we're spending as a contractor, as the designer, the time we're spending, like, sourcing product and getting there and making sure it's the right product or the right amount or the quality meets whatever standards we need it to meet, is stuff that the homeowner may just not know. And that's okay. That's why you're hiring a contractor and a designer to do this project. Otherwise, you would just do it all yourself. So I think just where owners, the customer gets confused is they forget that they're not just buying my time, they're also buying my experience and the knowledge that comes with that. You know, and yeah, it sucks when you get a product, you order tile, and, you know, 2 boxes, you know, have cracked tiles that you can't use. And it's like, okay, well, this product took 2 weeks to get here, blah, blah, blah. Now we have to wait another 2 weeks to get more. But, you know, stuff like that happens. And whether I buy it or the homeowner buys it, like, it could still happen. The difference is it's my headache and not the homeowner's headache. And I can still move forward on other things, or I can still, you know, install some of the tile. Like, we can still get things going, and, you know, just being able to do that. But I think the main piece that I'm trying to get across is, like, they're not just buying the product, they're buying our experience when we're going to get the product and making sure that it meets whatever standards it needs to meet. I can think of a shower that I did, and the customer was like, I'm going to buy all the materials. And I was like, well, I would prefer, if you want to buy the tile, that's fine. You pick out the tile you want, you pick out the grout color you want, buy it, I'll install it. Like, you just got to let me know what it is so that I buy the right things. But I would much rather buy the setting materials.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, I'm going to buy it because I'm going to be at the store. I was like, okay. And so they went to the store, they bought all the setting materials, they bring it back, and it's a wet space, and they bought mastic, which you shouldn't put that in a wet space. And I was like, we can't use this. She's like, what are you talking about? It's thin set. I was like, no, it's not. It's not the same thing, and I'm not going to put this in your shower. And so it's just one of those things where it's like, if you would have just let me buy the materials, like, it would have eliminated you needing to go back to Home Depot or back to wherever you bought the stuff, and you would already have a shower floor in. There's just things that, like, you're not really thinking about it when you're like, I'm going to save a little bit of money here, but now I'm going to make 7 trips to Home Depot because I'm not buying the right product.
Yeah.
And so I've had that happen a couple times to where now I'm just at the point where I'm like, I'm sorry, I am going to buy everything that goes underneath the tile. If you want to go down to 3rd Street and pick out your tile and your grout color, that's totally fine with me. Like, those ladies down there are fully capable of helping you find the right tile for your space. And once again, that's where, as like a contractor, I'm not a designer. Those ladies down there deal with tile and flooring all day. They know what trends are. They know what looks good. Like, I'm more than happy to send a customer down there.
Right.
It's like, but I am going to purchase the setting materials and the waterproofing materials.
Because you're warranting
that I want to use. Yeah, because I'm warrantying it.
Yeah, so margins exist on everything. And that's something that I think needs to be in that kind of contract level conversation. What the margin is I'm paying on things. Are there things that I can pull from the contract that I can supply myself? And not pay that margin? Like, everything's negotiable. That's fine. Like you're saying, you can pull the materials from this. That's cool. And then that headache becomes your responsibility as well, which is, that's part of what that margin covers. Is like, for myself, the tile arrives, I do an arrival inspection, make sure everything is correct, because that happens so much. Make sure nothing is broken. Then the tile gets to the job site. We do the walkthrough with the installer. Again, make sure nothing has been broken in transit. Nothing is broke. Those are all the levels of headache that we're taking care of for that margin.
And then there's layout too. Like, that's another thing too. Like, you're not just going to walk through the installer and be like, hey, this is the tile. A lot of times you're going to sit down and go like, okay, we need to
dry fit.
We need to dry fit this tile, or we need to lay it out on the floor and figure out exactly where things want to go. And so like, yes, then you're getting into like some hourly and some margin, but like, the margin is also helping cover a lot of just like things that you're not thinking about as the homeowner. And it's not just, and I think that's the other thing too, is like, margin is not just pure profit. Like, there's a reason we're charging margin.
So many things eat away at that little guy.
I know. It's like, you're paying 20% margin or whatever it is on your stuff, and it's like, $100 thing, that's an extra $20. That $20 goes really fast. Like, I think that's the other thing too, is people just don't think like, oh my gosh, you're charging me 20%. Well, it's like, I'm charging you 20%, but I'm also going to go pick it up for you. There goes $15 in gas because I have to go to Bend to get it. It's like, whatever it is, like, there's so many things that play into needing to charge margin.
Yeah, I've had 4 phone calls because it missed the first truck and I need to get it on the second truck, or they were short a box and now we have to, like, there's so much time that goes into managing these materials that is outside of, what I would charge for an hourly rate. Yeah. So margins exist. That's like step 1. And that should not shock you, but that can be a conversation. What is the margin that you're charging on everything?
Is the margin negotiable?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
No. There are times where I will mess with my margin on my end, especially like if we're really close to budget, if we're really close to those things, I will take a hit on my margin to get the final product that I know is going to, knock it out of the park. That's usually not necessary. I mean, if we're hitting budget or close to budget or something, I mean, typically margins take a hit when something happens in the project that, like, we don't want to mess up or redesign the whole space, it makes way more sense for my margin to go down than it does for me to invest the time and, you know, the client the money to redesign the whole thing or to make a new selection. So,
and there's been times where I've adjusted my margin, kind of like what you're saying, but like when something goes wrong or whatever it is, it's a lot easier for me to reduce my margin. And I think the trade-off for me is like having a happy customer, right? I'll gladly take a little less money so that I can fix this problem by just reducing my margin a little bit. Because then it means they're not having to think about it. It's just taken care of.
Yeah, but keep talking for me to reduce my margin or asking for me to, or negotiating that margin on the front end, communicates a lot to me about the value that you see that I'm bringing to the table. And that becomes like kind of a red flag.
Yeah.
Like, this is the margin. I'm happy to have you take things and exclude things from the contract if you want to provide them yourself and you don't want to pay the margin on those things. That makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
But don't ask me to work for free. Like, that's not generous. That's not fostering a good working relationship. So then if we're margin, so you're saying I'm not working for free, but margin is not hourly. No, but it's that management of the product that I'm being asked to own without compensation for that. So there's like, I never charge clients for the 2-minute phone call that happens every day or what, you know, what, like those minutes add up.
Or the text messages that you're sending.
Yes. So yeah, it's working for free because the management is work for sure. So I'm gonna stick with. I said what I said.
So, what is? And I don't have a problem sharing mine. But what is a typical margin? How do you figure your margin?
So having that conversation would be really different with the designers. So my margin on furniture is different than my margin on tile.
Okay.
For example.
Yeah.
So there's a much bigger markup on furniture. Furniture costs a lot more to have samples of, to have space for, to have all of those things. You know, like if you talk about cost per square foot, if you're talking about a retail space, you know, that couch takes up a significant square footage footprint. Like, you're paying rent on that couch, basically, to figure the rent on a piece of tile, you know, that you have a sample for or whatever, is significantly different. So the margin on furniture is way higher than the margin on tile. Overall, like, if I was doing a whole home kind of cost plus contract, which it's been a long time since I've done anything on a percentage base.
And we'll talk about cost plus in a little bit too.
Yeah. If I can keep a 10% margin on a job, I'm doing great. So your contractor is 20 to 30 to 40, depending on the contractor.
And you're saying 10% is generally 10% is like averaging over like the things you have higher margin on and the things you have lower margin on. Things go wrong. Like, is that what you're saying? Or
I guess that's not right. Okay, let me backtrack. My margin on product is probably averages 30% between furniture and like hard goods. So my lowest margin is 10%, which is just like a standard designer discount that I would get off of retail anything. And then my steepest margins are the things that I am actually wholesaling. So I am bringing in the wholesale good and reselling it, and those are at about 50. So.
And I find too, like, even like you mentioned furniture, like even like custom furniture, my margin on a piece of custom furniture is actually going to be higher. Because I'm managing something that is custom, and if it's not right, it's on me. Or, you know, like a lot of times it's coming back to me because you can't return a custom piece of furniture if the customer doesn't like it. So someone is paying for it. It's coming from somewhere, right? And you can only fill your office with so many pieces of custom furniture that your customer doesn't like. No, but I'm just saying, like, I would look at it too as like things that are one of one or one of a kind or one of a few. Those things are going to have a higher margin on them than like me going down to Third Street Flooring and I buy the tile for you, like hard goods like that. A lot of times that's 10% for me because it's just, you know, it's a really easy thing to get. They're mass producing it. Like it's one of many,
Yeah.
right? And so that's generally how I kind of look at margin a lot of times. It's just like, okay, how hard is it going to be to get, one, and two, when it's here, like, are there more of these? Like, if this comes to me broken, is there another one I can get, in the same time frame or quicker? And if not, if it's a custom piece, that margin is going to be higher.
So I basically, and this is like contentious, and I might not do this way forever, but I cap whatever my margin is capped at retail. So I never want my clients to pay more than retail. Most designers don't work like that.
Yeah.
I just feel weird about it. I don't know. I feel weird about you overpaying or paying me more for something that you could buy yourself. And even saying that, it sounds like maybe I have some like that might be a mental block, because that's not the way the rest of the industry works at all. Like, the client is going to pay more than retail for like framing materials because you're going to take a margin on framing materials.
Most of the time, like, I don't even get a discount. Like, I go down to the lumber company, like, there might be like a 1% to 2% decrease in price for me, but like, I'm still putting my margin on that.
So most designers don't work like that. Like, most designers it's retail plus that 25% off of or on top of retail prices. And again, that's for the management, that's for, all of the things that go into procuring a household full of things, and then managing the installation for that, and all of that stuff. So so I'm not normal in that I cap my margin at retail, but that's where I'm at today, and
that might change. But
that's what I have been doing. There's margin on everything, and then the way that people work is different. So even the margin, like the profit, or the margin that I make on things is not the same thing as the cost or fee for the services rendered. And that's true for both designers and builders. So margin is separate than service fees, I guess.
It's really easy too for a contractor to divide those two, right? Because I have materials and I have labor, right? The labor for you is going to look a little different than probably the labor for me. I mean, it's still, because you're not installing anything, generally speaking, as the designer.
No, not true.
Oh, teach me.
So if it's a whole house project, then I am definitely installing all of the furniture, all of the artwork, all of the soft goods.
That makes sense.
Making beds. I have loaded drawers with silverware, like installing.
Yeah. And I guess that's where I switched it. Like, when I said labor, I meant like the act of building something, which is
installing.
Yeah. So I totally get what you're saying now. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're less than me, but
that was my big, got my hackles up.
I just want you to know that I might be. I'm just kidding.
I'm just saying, I have a little tool belt. I mean, it's full of like command strips, but.
Just glitter tape and command strips.
Yeah.
I want every homeowner to feel magical when they walk in.
And like one of those dumb multi-tool screwdrivers where you can change.
The 6-in-1, 12-in-1.
That's all I got.
Yeah. That's all in your tool belt. That's it.
All I need.
And I got a little pink handled hammer.
No, it's like a ball peen hammer.
Oh no. Dear, I'm sorry. I fully believe that you can build things. I apologize. I'm sorry. Please forgive me, Brittany.
No, I got real fast with it. Yes, I do install beds. Thank you. Wrestle mattresses, and I want credit for it.
The mattress wrestler. And I mean, that is a real thing.
Yeah.
Especially when you get into some of those mattresses, they're like 300 pounds.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not. It is.
You put your whole body weight into that.
CrossFit workout.
You can throw out your back real easy.
Liability, man.
Okay. Sorry. So we have established that you build things, you make things.
Thank you.
Yes. Please.
The way designers work looks different.
Yeah.
So, and really that depends on the services that you're rendering. So there are a ton of designers that are doing online consults.
Yeah.
Or like fast design.
Yeah.
Which I have never dabbled in. I have never done. It's something that I'm looking at because it seems like, you know, a great way to spend a day and really knock something out as opposed to these really long relationships with clients. So if a designer is putting together just a list of specifications, like here's your space, I have dimensions, here's the furniture that will work, here's the artwork that will work, here's the products, here you go. I would expect that designer is charging a flat rate for those services. And I would expect that that's kind of the only type.
A flat hourly rate?
No.
Okay.
Like a package. Okay. Like a living room is $5,000
Got it.
or whatever. And here you go.
$5,000 plus material or whatever.
Well, that would be I'm not specifying. I'm not buying anything.
Okay.
This is a list of like, here's the link. You can purchase this for yourself from this website.
Okay.
So you're just paying the design fee for the space that you want.
Essentially
and
there's the consult and the design of that space.
Yeah. And there's no hand holding through that process. There's no, oh, this is out of stock now. What do I do? Like maybe, I don't know, maybe that's something that's negotiated in the fine print of that contract if you go to purchase things and things are out of stock.
Yeah.
But the biggest reason that's the biggest reason that I don't do that. I'm like, this could drag on forever because nothing is ever in stock 2 minutes from when I decide I want it.
Well, it's never in stock, and it's it's back ordered, or you know, you're waiting 6 months for something.
So I don't know how those details work. Okay. But that's like the only service that I could imagine being a flat rate fee for. I'm going to do this for you, and this is how much it costs. There is a move in the design industry to adopt more flat rate type services, mostly because what you were talking about earlier, you're paying for my expertise. So if I'm going to design a living room for somebody, I'm pretty good. No, I'm like, it's not going to take me very long.
No, I get it.
Number one, I'm familiar with products. Like I'm already familiar with all of these things. I've seen and troubleshot these issues so many times. Understanding, you know, just the basic things of what's going to work, like path of travel and how much clearance is and all of these things that come from feedback over years and years and years. Having done so many. So there's this expertise built in that means that I can work a lot more efficiently than somebody that's fresh out of design school or just starting out. So if we're charging hourly, you know, that person that's got way less experience is going to make way more than somebody, in theory, unless that rate is adjusted.
I was going to say, which I think, have you found is like the rate variability of like someone that maybe is starting out versus someone with 15 years experience? Is it like a $50 an hour to a $200 an hour difference?
Yeah, I would say that actually is kind of the variable that you'll get. I work right now for $150 an hour. The rates around Central Oregon where we are go up to about $200 to $250 depending.
And I've talked to other designers too, and they've ranged anywhere between like 110 is kind of the lowest I've seen that I've talked to like 150, 175 is kind of what I've found. Yeah,
there's some of that, you know, billing for my expertise is built into that hourly rate. But at the same time, I can see where a flat rate fee is going to, you know, the amount of hours it would take me to design that living room for $5,000 or whatever the rate is going to look a lot different than the amount of hours it's going to take somebody just setting out to design that living room for $5,000. So
it's asking the question, like, should you be paid less because you have more experience and you're faster? And the answer is no, you shouldn't be. Just because it takes a newbie or someone with less experience 40 hours and it takes you 10, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't make, you know, an appropriate amount of money, whatever that number is. And so
the reason that I bill hourly and will likely continue to bill hourly is because there is no way to predict how many hours a client is going to need. So,
well, and you're doing, I guess I would almost say I don't know if boutique is the right word, but you're really into the process with all of your clients.
Yes.
Because you're not doing the online thing. You're not doing like Zoom calls and like consultations that way, which I could see some of that maybe being more like package rates. It's a defined amount of time.
Right.
Right. Whereas what you're doing, there is no defined amount of time. It could take a year, 2 years to finish a project,
Absolutely.
Depending on what they're doing.
Yeah. And depending on the client.
Yeah.
I would say that's the biggest variable of the things that I do. So, yeah, I've said, I can design, I can produce, I can handle, 20, 25 projects at a time. That's not crazy to me. If it's just the specification of product and developing a functional plan. How many clients can I manage at a time? Yeah. There's a real cap on that.
That's a very different question.
Yes.
Yeah.
So is that my project load? No. Can I function with that project load? No.
Can you handle 25 clients at one time?
No, I cannot.
How many clients do you like to have at one time?
One. No.
Well, that would be nice. But
I think my ideal number at one time would be like 9 or 10 would be perfect. And that would be, everything would be spaced at different phases of the process.
They're not all, you don't have 9 or 10 people all starting at the same time.
Right. Yeah. No. That would, and for me, that would look like a year of work. Like if I'm working with 10 people, I would assume 3 are finishing up. We're in the middle of 3. We're,
starting
3. And that's kind of spread the workload really, really nicely.
The next stage.
So that initial phase is really client heavy, meeting heavy, proposal heavy, all of those things. Managing the project in the middle is a lot more work with subs, with contractors, with vendors, less client heavy. Finishing up again is pretty client heavy. Making sure everything has come together. That installation, hard work.
You're walking around with the blue tape.
Yeah.
I hate
and my glitter pen. So that's another pretty intensive, heavy kind of workload. So that would be kind of the ideal project mix. The most I've managed at one time is 17, and that was a bad day.
It sounds horrible. Well, and I just think because I don't usually have more than that I'm working with at one time. I'm usually only working with 3 to 5 clients at a time. Right? Like I have the project that we're started or we're currently doing.
Yeah.
I have one that we're finishing up, we're moving on to another project. So I'm communicating with both of those customers, and I'm communicating with the customer after that because they're usually picking out finishes, or we're starting to order materials and get things done. So I'd say the most I have at one time would be 4. If I'm depending on how fast projects are going to be.
And I would say that makes sense. Because my load would be doubled because I'm pre-working with people way before we've involved a contractor for hard pricing and all of those things. There's that pre-phase. And then the after phase would be you're done. The house is built. And now it's my job to throw up glitter all over it, I guess, or whatever.
Shoot glitter everywhere.
I don't even like glitter.
Yeah. Sorry, it's just because you're a designer. All designers use glitter.
I'll own it. That's fine.
So as far as for me, when I think about margin, that's something that I'm not going to say I'm scared to talk about, but my margin can be pretty high sometimes. And it really just depends on what it is. So if you look at my hourly for my staff, for my guys, my cost, we'll say my cost is, have 2 guys on your project for 2 weeks or whatever it's going to take. I'm paying $75 an hour for those 2 guys to be there for 2 weeks. That's just what it costs me.
Right.
Is $75 an hour. So my margin on guys is 50%. I'm charging essentially $150 an hour for those guys for 2 weeks, 8 hours a day, to be there. Which a lot of people, they're like, $150 an hour, which I know for you, your hourly rate is $150. My hourly rate, if I'm just going to be managing a project and running a project, is $150. So so labor for me is the most expensive piece of anything, and it's going to have the highest margin, but that's also where I found the most fight, not so much in material, but more so in labor, because they're watching HGTV or they're watching whatever it is, and they're like, I can do this. And I'm like, well, if you could do it, then I wouldn't be having this conversation with you right now. Like, either you don't have the time to do it or your wife doesn't want you to do it, is ultimately, it's like, which I've had that conversation before, is the wife is like, you can't do it. So anyway, so that's where I found like the biggest, I guess, hiccup, or like the biggest point of contention a lot of times, is the hourly rate that I charge for labor. And I think people, when they see that 150, or when I say like, cost on this is, because I have people ask me, and I don't hide it from them.
Right.
If they ask me, like, well, how much are you paying for labor? I was like, well, it costs me $75 an hour. That's just for the guys. Like, that's not fuel. That's not insurance. That's not, that's not my time to like manage them and schedule them. Like, that's not, mortgage or rent or whatever it is. Like,
right. All of the overhead that comes from that, right.
Bookkeeping, just all the things that they don't think about. It's like, yes, I'm charging $150 an hour, but I am not making that extra $75 an hour. Like, that doesn't go into my pocket.
That would be so nice.
It would be nice. I would if I was making $75 an hour, that'd be great. So anyway, that's kind of been the conversation that I have to have a lot of times with customers, is like, it's like, I know you're seeing this, 150 number, but that doesn't mean that I'm making 150. And I honestly try really hard. This is part of the reason that I've grown slower than maybe some other people, is because I want to hire the right guys at the right pay.
Yeah.
I don't believe in hiring guys. I do think that there are a few like $15 an hour tasks, but I don't think there's that many. I think most of the guys that you're going to bring on your team.
I mean, McDonald's is hiring at $20 an hour right now. So
yeah, exactly. And so we don't need to get into that. But yeah, I mean, my guys, they make a livable wage, or what I think is a livable wage, and like, they're okay with it. They're still here. They like it.
Right.
They like the paychecks they're getting. And I try to pay them well. So, that's kind of been why I've grown slower, why I don't have more guys working for me, is because I'm trying to hire good people.
Wow.
That
brings up a whole business management thing. Like, I mean, when you hire the right people, you're adding to your income. It's not an expense. I have found a person that I can offload all of these tasks to and be more productive and manage my business better and grow in this way. So it's, that's like a mental shift. But I think that sets your business up to grow in the right way, as
in the
opposed
long
to
run too.
Quickly.
Yeah. Where I was going with that is I just make sure, like, part of the reason my hourly becomes so high is because, I truly believe in paying my guys what they're worth, or what they need to live and take care of their families. Yeah. Which is why that margin for me is a lot higher than maybe some. Like, I know some other contractors, they don't charge a 50% margin on their guys. They charge a lot less. But I would also challenge the quality of their staff is maybe not what I would want on my staff. And
we talked about, knowing that you're in people's homes, you're in people's spaces, you're with people's families, really qualifying who you work with and who you are basically endorsing to be around our clients and their people. There's a huge weight and responsibility in that I think a lot of general contractors ignore. Yeah.
I mean, and the reality is, like, any of my guys, I would be more than okay with having them watch my kids. Right. Like, which I think is kind of like the highest level of trust, right? I mean, for sure. Your kids and your spouse, right? Which, I feel more than comfortable having any of them in my house at any time, and know that, like, they're good people. Like, they're going to be, they're just going to be good people. So anyway, back to margin. Where I find my material margin, it really ranges, kind of like I was talking before. the rarer the piece or the more custom the piece is, the margin gets a little higher.
Yeah.
A lot of times, you know, most of my margins range in between the 10 and 20% range for materials. They can go as high as 40, but that's like on a really custom piece. Like if I'm having, you know, like I've had a custom piece of woodworking done that is, you know, a nice table. You know, it was a nice oak table that we put in someone's living room. It was an expensive, you know, it's an expensive piece as it is. But then the fact that I also had to store and protect that for a little bit before we were done with the project, you know, that also accounted for my margin being higher because I have a storage unit that I keep things in, you know, in process or while we're waiting to install them or do them. So there's some of that piece in there too, that is just like, I have to store them. Therefore, there's going to be a little bit higher margin on this project. And also it took 3 months to make, you know.
There's that.
So the other thing too is subs. A lot of times contractors, you know, don't charge a margin on their subs or they don't charge enough of a margin on their subs. And a lot of people like, okay, like I get an electrical bid for $8,000, you know, or it costs $8,000. Well, that's what it costs to have the electrician come in and do the work. That's not what it costs for me to manage the electrician.
Right.
Because the reality is like the electrician can come in and install things, but if they don't know what they're installing, if they don't know, you know, where they need to go, exactly where things are, which is where the design really comes in handy too, is having all of that stuff figured out. But
like this week I did an electrical walkthrough. So I'm supplying specs on every fixture to make sure the electrician knows exactly what kind of loads we need, if we need any transformers for, you know, LED or low voltage or any of those things.
Yeah.
Like I'm supplying all of that. I'm also supplying all of the elevations for placements and everything is called out on where all of those go.
Yeah.
And we have the contractor on that walkthrough because then we've got things like ceiling fans that need bracing and we've got things like heavy chandeliers because this is the weight and this needs here. So your margin on managing all of those people is paying for that walkthrough. So I do the walkthrough with the contractor and the electrician. So it's all of us on site. If the contractor needs to move like venting for the lighted medicine cabinet that's going behind the sink where there's the air vent or, you know, all of those things, the contractor is there to manage. We got to do this, this, and this, and this is my thing. And then we need more bracing here, and then we need backing here, and then we need blocking here, and blah, blah, blah. So that's where your margin's coming from in managing all of that and making sure all of that's ready before the start date of the electrician and making sure that you're managing those phasings and all of that. And then you know, oh, now I lost it.
Well, what I was going to say is that's where for managing subs, my margin can vary a little bit depending on the extent of what's needed to move the project forward.
I got it back.
Okay, what?
So I do my pre-walkthrough with just the tradespeople. And then I do my client walkthrough with the client and explain, here's what we can do, here's what we can add, here's where you can have outlets, here's where you have to have an outlet, how do we hide it because it's ugly, or whatever, you know, all of these things that we have talked about where I have then workshop solutions for the owner, like this bathroom, we've got a slab backsplash and I need the outlet that has to be in the backsplash to not interrupt this, you know, gazillion-dollar beautiful piece of quartzite. Yeah. So come up with solutions for that, ran that by the electrician, take that to the homeowner, make sure they're okay with these solutions and these things. Then I go back with, all right, here's the plans, here's this. So there is so much management in these subs. Nobody is just showing up and
doing it. Yeah.
Doing the thing. Like there is no such thing as, I mean, I guess for a production builder.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see that.
Where there is
a lot
no
more fixed cost
customization on anything. But everything that we're doing is specific to the home and specific to the client. So there's so much oversight that goes into that's where the margin is.
Yeah. There's no fixed costs when it comes to doing a remodel. Like there's no and what I mean is like it's going to look different every house that we do.
Yeah, there's no package.
There's no
deal.
package. Yeah,
Your new
it's like,
kitchen.
yeah, this
You
electrician.
picked package A.
Yeah, exactly. And people are like, well, how much is the electrician going to cost? I was like, well, it's going to cost either $5,000 or $15,000. I don't know. We're going to have to find out when we get into this because, you know, I can't see through walls. And I don't know what's under there. Because, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've opened up a wall and people have just left raw live wire behind the wall. And I'm just like, which is a relatively simple fix, but it's also a pain in the butt because now I have to bring this to the electrician. He's going to have to trace it all back, figure out where it goes. Like it's not just a standard package deal. This remodel is only going to cost you $27,000 and that's it. It's like, well, it could cost you much more than that.
Could be a variable.
I could spend $20,000 on an electrician. Yeah. So anyway, all I was trying to say is like my margin, a lot of times, depending on the electrician or depending on the job, can range anywhere from 30 to 50%. It just depends on how extensive my job is to make sure that things are moving forward. And that's also one of those things where like you talked about like adjusting your margins. Sometimes is like a lot of times like I may set my margin at 50% because I think it's going to be a big headache. And then it's not, and I can reduce my margin. I think that's the other thing too. We talked a little bit about it last week, but it's like people are afraid that like the number there is exactly what they're being charged, when the reality is I try really hard to guess high because I would much rather hand my customer a bill that's $5,000 less because of this than to say, oh, I should have charged you more money. I'm sorry. So I think that's just one of those things that allows, like, having a little bit higher margin also allows me to then give the customer grace and help. And, when things change or things are easy or not as just tough as what we kind of predicted because I can't see through walls, I'm able to adjust that a lot easier and just say, well, actually, it didn't take that much of my time and it cost the electrician was significantly less because of whatever it was. And so I think just having that flexibility allows me as a contractor to do my job more effectively and provide the customer with, ideally, just a lower cost in the end.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So designers typically work either on this package price or an hourly rate. There is a margin on the things that we sell you. And then I have in the past, especially on big projects, done a percentage rate of the total project. So those are jobs usually where I was doing the project management. So I was the one managing basically the general contractor, representing the client. So like 2 times I can think of where I just charged a flat percent. So whatever the job came in at, I did a percent on top of the total job cost.
If it's a $100,000 job, then you would have a percentage.
It's safe for people to budget that way. Like a designer, the number of like 10% of the total project is a relatively safe budgetary thing. So if you want to do a $100,000 kitchen remodel, expect that the designer fee is going to be about 10 on top of that $100,000. Like I think that's a safe way to budget up to a point.
Yeah.
Like if we're building like a $4.5 million home,
you're not making $400,000.
No.
Yeah.
But I think that's a safe way for renovation projects. Probably we could say that to proceed. Contractors, I know of kind of 2 different ways, 2 different pricing models. So there's the hourly fees and the labor costs, and the margins are kind of all built into 2 different models of building something. Either there's a fixed contract,
fixed cost model,
a cost plus model. And that's typically what you will find with builders. You want to talk about those?
Yeah. So a lot of what I've done has been fixed cost. I've done some cost plus, and I'm starting to do more cost plus because as things get more expensive and as in remodeling, it's really hard. I've just found that it's really hard to have a good fixed cost number on a lot of things because it's so varying based on the project. But essentially, a fixed cost number is where I'm going to hand you, say we're remodeling your kitchen, and it's going to cost $70,000. Like that's the number that I'm giving you. Mm-hmm. It can vary from there, but generally speaking, I'm saying that like I can do all of this work that you are asking me to do for $70,000. And you're contracting that number, you're contracting $70,000. I'm saying I'm going to provide materials, these materials, and this is the labor cost, and it's relatively fixed. So you have a number to base it off of. Mm-hmm. Whereas like the difference of a fixed cost versus cost plus would be, I'm still going to give you that rough number. Like I'm still going to do my best to give you a general number. Yeah. And this is where on a bigger project, cost plus makes more sense. Smaller projects, it's a lot easier to do a fixed cost, whereas on a big project, you're doing a whole home remodel. Mm-hmm. That's where the cost plus model comes in and actually can make things a lot easier. But a cost plus is where I'm going to give you a general number, but then typically monthly, or kind of whatever I've worked out with my customer, I'm going to present all of my receipts to that customer. I'm going to say, this is what I've spent this month. This is what our labor costs were this month. So this is the cost for the project this month. So it doesn't have any overhead in there. It doesn't have any markup on that stuff. This is just the cost. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to say what we agreed to was a cost plus a certain percentage. So, and that's where it can vary. Some contractors, it used to be like a cost plus 20 was really common, was a cost plus 20%. I'm just gonna be completely honest, 20% is not really enough anymore. Mm-hmm. Just with the cost of everything, with all the overhead and managing your employees and just all that sort of stuff.
This inflation we got.
I know inflation is real, and people don't like to admit it, but it's very real.
Just the overhead has skyrocketed.
Yeah, exactly. And so where I'm finding now is I'm landing a cost plus 35, 40. I have not gone cost plus 50. I have a hard time. Like I have met a couple contractors that are like, all of our custom stuff is a cost plus 50%. Mm-hmm. And I think when you're getting into super custom things where you're doing a custom built home or you're doing not a $150,000 remodel, but you're doing a $500,000 remodel on a home, that's where I can see things getting really custom and needing to increase that plus that percentage. Mm-hmm. But most of my stuff kind of falls around the cost plus 35 for a lot of stuff, because I would just say I'm doing smaller projects than a lot of other contractors. So when it comes to say like a bathroom remodel, and I guess I know that you can spend $150,000 on a bathroom remodel, mm-hmm. but in general, the clientele that I have worked with, the average bathroom remodel I'm doing is right around $15,000 to $25,000. Yeah. Which would be a master bathroom. It's basically a surface remodel with a custom shower. Right. Is what it is. We're not moving anything. We're not adjusting. We're not increasing the square footage. We're not pulling walls. We're not doing anything. It's, we're going to get you new flooring, new paint. You're going to get
adding a separate water heater for your car wash of a shower.
Exactly.
You're not doing a car wash shower.
I'm not doing a car wash shower for $25,000. No, but it's going to be flooring, paint. You're going to get a semi-custom vanity. It may not be fully custom. Mm-hmm. And you're going to get new countertop, and you're going to get a fully custom shower for the most part. Like. With there are some parameters in the custom shower, but when I say custom shower, I mean you're going to get a tile floor, you're going to get tile walls. Yeah,
the footprint what fits as opposed to a 5-foot shower pan.
Exactly.
That we put in there.
Exactly, and so that's where fixed cost is a lot easier. For me to look at a project and go to hear the scope, basically walk through the project with the customer. You go, they say, hey, I want to make this shower. It's currently currently a 3x5 shower. I'd like to extend it out this way because we have the room mm-hmm. to extend it this way. And, I'd like to move this pony wall, which to me, like, that's not really moving a wall. That's more so just making the shower a little bit bigger. I'm not removing a structural wall, right? I'm not removing a wall between a bedroom and a bathroom or a closet and making it the whole thing bigger. So that's where I can look at a project a lot more holistically and go like, okay, I know based on other projects I've done, it's going to fall in this range, barring anything that we find. And there's always a caveat and a fixed cost. Like that's why there's a contract created, right? There's always a disclaimer in there that says like, hey, this is a fixed cost. But if I go to remove your shower and I find that the subfloor is missing underneath, or, you know, whatever it may be, there's black mold, it's complete, you know, it's been leaking for years, like that's going to be an additional. But barring any of that happening, like this is what you can expect to pay.
Yeah.
And smaller projects, it's a lot easier for an experienced contractor to walk in and go like, okay, this is a $10,000, you know, remodel. We're doing a fiberglass shower pan. You're gonna get some tile on the walls, new flooring, you know, generally a stock vanity. You know, which, you know, can vary a little bit, but yeah, it's a lot easier on smaller projects for me to walk in to do that. And that's where it becomes like the difference between like a surface remodel versus a, like a full on custom moving walls, you know, moving your, on a kitchen, reconfiguring your kitchen or bathroom or whatever it is. So that's kind of how I have managed fixed cost versus cost plus. As I've moved into some bigger projects, I have fully embraced the cost plus model because the truth is I'm still learning on a lot of those big projects too, on what exactly things are going to cost. And I try to be very upfront with the customer, and I say, hey, like I have done projects similar to this, or I have done maybe not this project as a whole, but I've done each of these components separately. So I can give you a general number on what each of these components are going to cost. But what we can find behind the walls, I can't do that. Or I can't, you know, really give you a solid number on, you know, bringing all of this together until we do it. And so that's where a cost plus model has really helped me, because I've been able to say like, hey, this is what we've spent so far, this is what things have cost, and, you know, we can move forward from there.
Yeah, I think the cost plus gives the homeowner the illusion, at least, of more control.
Yeah.
So I think that as long as, you know, obviously in that case, that plus, that margin is agreed upon, discussed, you know, that's not a surprise. But it really lets the homeowner feel like I'm paying for what I want and everybody's making money and everything is great, as opposed to this, you know, reality where you agree on a scope. If something comes out, it doesn't come out at a 1-to-1 ratio. You know, and that's the fact. And the homeowner you know, knows that, feels that, feels like they're being taken advantage of a little bit more, I guess. I mean, some of that is just inescapable. Like, you have the electrician there. There's like the cost of doing business. There's the cost to get that person there. And then there's the cost of the services. So, you know, the electrician is already there and we've agreed on this scope, and you just removed this, and this. It's not coming out at 50% of that agreed rate, you know, because their cost of doing business, their cost of being there and showing up and all of those things is the, you know, lion's share of that budget. Yeah. So for them to remove like 50 feet of wire, you've saved yourself $4 or whatever.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Like, you've eliminated scope, but you're not eliminating, you know, cost necessarily by the time we get to that point. And that's where I feel like the fixed cost model that was really kind of the industry standard for so long, that's why maybe people felt like they were being taken advantage of, because there was just a lack of understanding about the nuance of the way that people charge and the way that that those things work. The fixed cost model contracts that I've seen are not advantageous to the client when you come in under budget or when the scope changes, basically. Like, so the way that, you know, one builder that I worked with really closely, we got a really good idea before contracts were signed of selections and what the client was going to want, and got kind of hard number bids from subs based on the scope. So all of those numbers go into the contract, And then that margin gets added on, that plus. But let's say then we go to make selections and they're like, you know what, I've changed my mind. I didn't really need to gild the room in gold. I'm fine with,
copper instead.
subway tile or whatever. Like, we didn't need this big custom thing. We're going to downsize here. So, great. Okay. You're going to get a credit back because our budget was based on the allowance was for this type of product.
Yep.
Like maybe you built your allowance for quartzite in the laundry room and instead we've decided that just manufactured quartz is fine or Formica, whatever we're doing. So you get your credit on the product difference.
Yep.
You do not get a credit on that margin.
The margin.
So the margin was built on this huge budget number and the contractor's keeping that and their profit just went up. So on a cost plus, you get to see that. The contractor's still making their money, but that that changes with the scope as you change it. So I think that's where the clients feel a little bit more in control.
Yeah.
I appreciate just the total transparency of a cost plus model. I just think that makes everything really, really easy. As a designer, if I'm working with a client on a stone selection or something for an exterior, I don't have to worry I don't know if I'm supposed to show them prices. I don't know if I'm supposed to, I don't know what I'm supposed to do because I don't want to step on the contractor's toes with their margin and the way they're doing business. So I just love the idea that I can get a bid, I can get a number, here's what it is. And remember, you've got your margin to tack onto that.
I think too, with fixed cost, I've had trouble with sometimes feeling a little slimy. And I don't mean like I'm taking advantage of the customer. I just mean there's times where a project comes in under budget or they chose a different appliance or whatever it is. And then with the margin, my margins were set. Like you're saying, my margins were set at this, for this more expensive product.
For this expectation.
Now it's been lowered. I have a hard time just as a contractor being okay, I'm still going to leave my margin the same. Whereas with the fixed cost, I'm finding what I do like about it is exactly what you said is it's all out front. Here it is. This is what everything costs. This is exactly what you chose and what it costs. There's no markup on that. Now I'm going to add my 35% or whatever it is. And it's all very transparent. And I've just found that it makes I can sleep better at night with the cost plus model. Well, not that I was taking advantage of people before, but there's just things where you're okay, I bid this project at $25,000. It only costs, maybe materials came in at half as much as what I thought, or whatever happened because things change.
Well,
right?
Especially there for a while. It was playing the stock market.
Gosh, it was ridiculous.
So,
yeah, exactly.
That's not wrong.
I mean, there was a project that I bid materials on at $22,000. Okay, this was for a big Trex deck. Bid it at $22,000. They're okay, that's great. We're 4 months out from doing the project. By the time I go to purchase those things, the month before, the price had actually gone down by 15%, right? Which is a big deal on, $22,000. And so it's okay, well, this is what they agreed to, but now I'm only spending this much. So guess what? They get a credit, which is great for them. But, it's just one of those things where you're kind of okay, well, you just don't know what materials are going to do when you're waiting on a project or when you're ordering things, you sign contracts 6 months before you actually start the project, which just makes things fun.
No, not really.
Not really.
That's why I don't like doing those packages.
The other thing too we can talk about change orders.
Oh, yeah.
The other thing too is with cost plus, you don't really have the change order problem that I have found.
Okay.
So I guess this is because most of the time, that change order, maybe the scope has changed, but it's not that when I have a fixed cost, so $25,000 for a bathroom, they want to change it from a normal shower to a steam shower. Well, there is going to be a change order cost on that. And that change order cost is going to be more expensive because I have to buy, maybe I bought certain materials for doing a regular shower, but now the waterproofing needs to change because there's a very different in the waterproofing product that I use between doing a regular shower and a steam shower. I have to buy a more expensive product. Therefore, it's going to cost you more, not just for the product, but you've also paid for this other product already.
Yeah.
That I can't return.
Right.
And so that's where kind of like the fixed cost becomes a little bit of an issue, or that's where change orders become a little bit harder, become more expensive, I guess, in my mind. Now that doesn't fix it with like a cost plus. If I've already purchased something, then that kind of sucks for them.
Yeah.
Because I can't return it, but they're able to just see, I guess, in my opinion, they're able to see a little bit easier, like, okay, this is what it costs, and then I'm still putting that 35% or whatever it is on top of it. But it's not necessarily an increase in me charging more just for the inconvenience.
You don't have just a fee, like a flat change order fee.
Yeah.
Because I've been around builders that do it two ways. I mean, obviously, if the owner determines that the scope needs to change, they pay for that. Like you don't get to change lanes and get that for free. But a lot of contractors charge just a fee it's totally designed to discourage,
which is usually double the hourly
change orders.
Yeah.
Like,
or at least that's what I've seen.
Don't do it. Don't change your mind.
Oh, you changed your mind? Now I'm going to charge you $300 an hour for this section of the project.
Yeah. Well, I've been around just where it's a flat fee. Like any change that you make after we, demo commences, basically, there's a flat fee plus the cost of doing business. Like you're paying for the new things and the old things and whatever can't be returned and all of those things. Plus there's a fee every time you want to sit down with me and add your changes.
Yeah.
Which again is probably a big difference between like a production builder and a custom builder. Like I feel like custom builders, that's just,
I feel like that's just part of the building process, which is why, like, being a remodeler, it's hard for me, like with the change order, to have that,
especially because the realities and conditions of the house are going to dictate a lot of kind of mid-swim changes.
Exactly.
Like we're in the middle of this and we didn't know that this was framed like this and we can't do what we thought. Or
which they're still going to be charged the appropriate hourly, but there is not an additional fee for that change order on top of it.
Mine this week was I had drafted this whole fireplace and I had imported the model, the computer model from the company's website, plopped it in, did the thing, drew the things, dimensioned it all, handed it off. The company sucks and their model was not correct. So they've got this box, like the fireplace insert on site. And they're like, dude, this doesn't fit. Like, this is not what's on our plans.
Yeah.
And I didn't double check it like a chump. So I had to change the whole thing. And that's one of the so I really messed up. How do you guys feel about this?
But see, then in that case, like, you're not charging them a change order fee for that. That's like, well, and I think too, like, that's where people are like, well, when someone messes up, who pays for it? It's like, well, generally it's going to depend. Like, if you tell me something wrong and I build this structure based off of the information that you have given me and we've agreed to, and then it's not what you really wanted, or it's different than what you wanted, then that is going to be on you. But if I, screw up the measurements on a fireplace or whatever it is, like, that's me. I'm eating that cost.
Yeah.
And I'm going to end up eating the cost of my time to fix it, because it's ultimately not your responsibility or not your fault that I screwed up.
Right.
And I think that's, I've talked to some contractors where they're like, yeah, I've messed up, but, I just, I charge them for, whatever it is that I said we were going to do. And then I add a little bit more for my screw up. And I'm like, I don't know that I agree with that, but it's kind of just, every contractor does it a little differently, which is unfortunate.
Every person.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the way that that's terrible. I don't know. I probably eat too much. Like,
oh, I know. Yeah.
because I end up like, this was all me. This was me forgetting 101 type of stuff and going too fast and not double checking the measurements. That's on me. And thankfully, in this case, the homeowner was like, yeah, it'll be fine. Like, your proposed solution is great. Worst case scenario, I am 1000% eating that fireplace.
The owner of
like,
a
it is
brand new
coming to my house. Because I just can't.
Hey, Chad, did you...
You know how you talked about wanting this? And I got a Christmas present for you.
Also, I can't pay myself this month.
No, that's
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't like that.
No, and I think too that's the nice thing. I don't know. I'm gonna say nice thing about remodeling is, generally speaking, the customers are very aware that things. And this is what I will say is that HGTV has been good for.
Is that emergency phone
is that
call
emergency
in the
phone
middle
call
of the episode?
Yeah.
What
like,
are we gonna do?
Exactly. And it's like, I think people have just come to understand that remodels are not perfect. And that helps me too as a contractor to be like, hey, like, I know we talked about this, that this was a possibility. Guess what? It came to light. Like, you know, you do
Here's
have
what we
mold, there
found.
is water damage, there is, you know, whatever it is that we have to fix. But I also going to say, I think that's the difference between an experienced and inexperienced contractor, is being able to kind of walk the customer through the things that can happen before the project starts.
Yeah.
And say, hey, I just want you to know we're dealing with a water space. When we're doing this bathroom, water can be anywhere, right? And just saying that I hope that it's complete, everything's dry, but you've had this crack in your tile, or you've had this crack, you know, whatever, that may actually extend beyond just the surface of the tile. So just being able to kind of walk customers through and say, you know, this is worst case scenario, what to expect. And this is worst case scenario, what it could cost. And then you get into the project and you're able to tell them like, hey, you know, this was a lot better than we thought. Like I've done a couple projects where they're like, oh my gosh, we had huge amounts of water damage and this bathroom I'm just finishing up, like a huge amount of water damage, like the floor had swelled and, you know, all this stuff. It's like, we're gonna have to tear out the whole subfloor. And it's like, I get into it and I'm, you know, they're already, you know, talking about having to replace the whole subfloor. And I get into it and I'm like, oh no, you guys are good. We just have to replace this underlayment. We just have to remove this underlayment. Everything underneath it is fine. Like, you know, but having the experience to be able to prep the customer and say like, this could happen. These are the things that we could run into.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, like I was saying, HGTV has helped a lot with that because, I mean, there's never an episode of Fixer Upper or whatever you're watching.
That is the climax of the episode.
I know, where something goes wrong. This beam is too short. It's like, I guess we're making the whole house smaller. No.
Here's one option.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So I think it's helped being a remodeler, just having people have understood that like their houses aren't perfect and things go wrong over the years or whatever it is can happen. And whereas like new construction, it's just all expected to be square and perfect and plumb all the time.
From who?
Well, from the owners.
Oh.
This wall is 3 degrees.
Yeah, no.
So anyway, did you have anything else you want to talk about before we... Paying for multiple trips of subs. We talked about it a little bit, just the cost to get them out there to do the job.
Yeah, and I think that's related to like change orders. It's not just the new fireplace is $4,000 more than the old fireplace. It's, but we had this whole timeline built where everybody was coming in phases that made sense. Yeah. And now we have to wait for the new thing and we have to get the guy out here again. And we have to like, the cost is not a, you know, easy little transfer. Yeah. It's
usually
exponentially more than if we had got it right the first time, usually. And there will be like, even with the fees, even with the whatever, there will be times where it's like, where it's worth it. And yeah, that I will encourage all day long, like pay the fee. Let's get it. Let's do it right. And there will be times where it's not, where the client will come up with like, we just think we should shift the whole fireplace over so that we can have a bigger window here. And it's like, not worth it. It is not worth it.
It's not worth the $20,000 that you're.
Yeah, that is not the way that I want you to spend your money, friend.
And I think too with that is a lot of times customers, they're like, oh yeah, you're just moving it over 6 inches or 3 feet or whatever it is. It's like, yeah, you're right. It is just moving it over 3 feet, but you're not taking into account everything that has to change now because we're moving it 3 feet, or whatever it is that you're doing. Like they're in their head, it's a lot more simplified than it actually is.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, kind of discussing, like, I don't think it's going to be the best bang for your buck to do this, which brings us to next week's episode. Hopefully next week we're planning to talk about, remodels and projects and just what is the best bang for your buck.
Learning all of this right now.
No, we talked about this.
I mean, do I remember?
It's in the notes.
Do I remember? No.
So yeah, I just want to say thanks for watching us. Did you have anything else you wanted to say? I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just figured we've been going for like a long time. Happy times.
Happy times talking money.
Okay, great. So join us next week. We're going to talk about just bang for your buck, kind of what to look for. What are the best upgrades to make to your home?
You're going to get different answers.
You are going to get different
answers. Depending on who you talk to. Yeah. If there's like a mystery third person in a room, I'm going to include a realtor. Okay. Because I disagree with 98% of what realtors tell you.
So join us next week. If you guys have any questions, definitely comment those. If you have any design questions, certainly hit us up. We'd love to try and bring that into the discussion. And maybe you'll get some free design tips from Brittany.
That's invaluable.
Or we'll send you a bill. Link your credit card information below. Anyway, like, subscribe, leave us 5 stars on Yelp. And just don't do Yelp. And we'll see you guys next time.
Yelp for podcasts.
Yelp for podcasts.